Hello and welcome to Tricks of the S Trade channel. Today is the 15th of July 2017, and today we have a lot to talk about, but the feature of today is Michelle Obama. Now, we're gonna find out at the end of the video if Michelle and all those stories that we heard and the rumors surrounding her is actually true or is it false. So if it's your first time on the channel, I'd like to welcome you, but there are certain things that I have to let you know before you continue watching this video. If it's your first time on the channel, I would advise that you pause the video right here and go look for the primer video. I'm going to show you how to get to the primer video in a second. Go look for the primer video. If you do not watch the primer video, a lot of the stuff that I'm going to say is not going to make any sense to you at all. So I'm going to show you how to get to the primer video in a second, so bear with me. So this is how you get to the primer video on our channel. So you can type actually on the search menu when you get to the channel right here, search primer on Tricks of the S Trade channel. And the primer video is going to be the oldest video that we have here. It's called primer. You can see that my mouse is hovering over the video right here. When you click on the video, if you're watching the video, another thing that I want you guys to do, if you're solely interested in transvestigation, because I say this all the time, even though we feature a lot of transgenders, sorry to say, the channel is not really about transgenders. It's about making you understand your world, making you understand the world from a logical point of view in which you're actually observing things, and connecting the dots around you, because everything that's happening around you is happening for a reason. So but if you're solely interested in transgenders only, because this channel is not about transgenders, I advise you to get a document. Now on any video, for example the primer video right here, there is a link right in the description section. When you go to the description section, as I'm hovering my mouse right there, as you can see, and you click on that link, it will take you to this document, right? The document is called Male versus Female Visual Differences. It will show you the visual differences between a woman and a man, because we live in a world in which you have to understand these differences so you don't get deceived. And if you want to be living a life in which you are free from deception, and you want to live you want to live your life according to the natural order of things, then you have to have this document and you should study it. So from henceforth now, I think I'm not going to be answering any questions on transgenders if someone doesn't show me that he or she has read the document with facts on the questions that they're actually asking about someone. I think I'm going to try to make that happen, because I want people to be educated. I don't want to be the one that is like doing the transvestigation without you guys who are watching doing it also, because I want you to carry out your own investigation on your own and convince yourself. All right, so we're just here to help. So if you're solely interested in transgenders, you have to get that document. All right, so with that said, I want to come back to the subject or the feature. We're going to feature Michelle Obama, but there's some other things that I'm going to talk about, and I have to provide certain warnings before I talk about that. Now, the first warning is this: if you're someone who doesn't like truth, okay, truth bothers you. I mean, it's something, because people live in a make-believe world of fantasy. They have their own small bubble. If truth bothers you, because it might change, it might be shocking to you, it might change your psychological way of looking at life, it might be too hurtful for you, please, I want you to pause this video right here, because today's truth is gonna be very, very brutal. It's something that you probably never understood or never heard before. It's going to be very, very brutal. I think it's going to be the most brutal video that has ever been put out on this channel. So I advise you, please pause the video right here and don't continue watching this any further, because it might be hurtful to you and you may not like it. That's the first warning. The second warning is this: if you're racist, I've defined the meaning of racism and prejudice before on the Shakira video. So if you're really interested in knowing what I'm talking about, you can watch the Shakira video. Look for the Shakira video on this channel and watch it. If you're racist, I'm not talking about prejudice, because prejudice, like I said before, is healthy behavior, because you're not hurting anybody, because you can't get along with everybody. It's technically and physically impossible. And prejudice also helps to protect you. All right, it's a whole different thing. So I've explained the meaning of prejudice before in the Shakira video, so I want to get into it today. Just watch the Shakira video and you'll get those definitions and meaning. But if you're racist and those racist people out there don't understand what I'm saying, you need to pause the video right here and don't keep watching, because the truth is going to be very, very brutal. Now, the last warning I have to put up is that there are channel rules in place. The channel rules means that there is no name calling of anybody or mudslinging of anybody you suspect to be a transgender. You just can't say this person is a transgender without providing facts. And those facts have to be labeled around the fact that the female skeletal structure is designed to give birth. And because the female skeletal structure is designed to give birth, it has certain things like an arch in the back, a tilted pelvis forward, a wide pubic arch, hips below the crotch, and those are the things that differentiates between a female and a male. So if your comments do not start with any of those facts, and you also have to provide the links and pictures which you're using to make your assertion in calling someone a transgender, we're gonna block you if you don't have any of those facts in your comments. If your comments or facts start with labeling someone a transgender, and you say the person has jaw lines, wide shoulders, wide neck, index fingers or ring fingers longer, long arms, whatever, we are going to block you. We don't want to hear any stuff about all that, including Adonis belts on here. You have to provide the links and the pictures and include the facts centered about the female skeletal structure. Otherwise, your comments are going to be blocked. You might be deleted, as the case may be. So those are the warnings in place. Now, before I go any further, because it's going to be a long video, I don't want to spend too much time going over this over and over again. As usual, I always like to say that we are not against transgenders, all right? In any way, shape, or form, as long as you've reached the age of adulthood and you make the decision when you're an adult and you say that you want to live in a sex and gender that's different from the sex and gender that you were born with. Besides that, we don't have any problems with you. We don't care if you're homosexual or whatever the case might be. We're not here to judge you. It's God who judges you. We're only here for the truth, all right? Now, the other thing, as I always say, that as I usually say at all the videos, that the people who are behind the organization of taking young children and mutilating or castrating these children, as the case may be, and making them to live as sex slaves or slaves, as the case may be, as products that they can be used, because they actually view these children as products. It's the Vatican. The Vatican is the one behind everything that's going on in the world that's organized. All right, they control everything from the economics down to the shower heads in your house to the underwear you wear. They have a hand in it. It's the Vatican. All right. So, and with that all being said, now today's feature, oh, sorry, the feature is Michelle Obama, but the subject we're going to address today is the black and white race. All right. I'm going to show you with facts there's no such thing as a black and white race, but rather there is a black humankind race. There's only one race, and it's black. I'm going to provide all the answers to your questions and to let you know how that name came to be white, and the origins of whiteness, and the reason why whiteness does persist in a society, and the people behind it, the reasons behind it. I'm going to try to answer all those questions in this video. It's going to be a long video, so that's the next warning. If you can't sit through maybe 2 or 3 hours of a video, then don't just watch this video. Just pause the video right here and just quit. You can watch something else. Now, before I get into the subject and the feature, there's some things I want to have to show you. So earlier I had said that we would have like a 7-minute delusional comment sections in which we feature people who are very, very delusional on our channel, just to show you how these people think and what they're about. So when you see these people making comments, you should know these are very delusional people, or they could be agents, because we have a lot of agents now on our channel watching the videos. So I'll go get into that, and then we will run through and start talking about the subject matter. The subject matter, yes, and then the feature of Michelle Obama will come up last. All right. So let's get into it. So the first comment I picked up was from somebody called the Fuzzy Counselor. Now I'm gonna read this. You can actually go look for this Fuzzy Counselor on the video and see what he actually said. Now his comments to me said, your understanding of Amos 9:7 is wrong. All you have to do is do a search for the commentaries on that verse. I mean, you can believe anything you want, but taking a scripture out of context and saying it proves the Jews were black is just wrong. You need a much more convincing proof. Now, remember, like I said, the feature or the subject of today's matter is actually addressing this black and white issue and putting it to bed for good. Now, I told him, you'll make my next video for a delusional person. So I'm going to show you the actual part of the Bible he's talking about here, and then we can talk some more about it. Right, so let me move you over to that part of the Bible. So here is the part of the Bible he's referring to. You can go look for it in the King James Bible, like I always recommend that you should have. The King James Bible or the Geneva Bible are the only Bibles I recommend if you want to read, because it had nothing to do with the Vatican. The people who translated the Bible, those two Bibles, translated it out of annoyance against the Vatican. All right, so it's not been tampered with. If you hear something like a New King James Bible, it's probably contains some tampering, or a New Geneva Bible, some tampering. But as long as it says the King James Bible, the King James Version, all right, that means that's the Bible you should go after, or the Geneva Bible. You can get, I think, the 1560 edition or the 1599 Geneva Bible. Now, here is what I'm going to read about from what the Fuzzy Counselor said. In Amos chapter 9, I'm reading from verse 7. It says, are ye not as children of Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel? Now, this fellow says that the interpretation that I gave to this particular portion of the Bible is actually wrong. But the question is, I didn't give the interpretation. This is the writing that says, are you not as children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel? I didn't say that. Now, if God is comparing Ethiopians to Israelites, now, if the Jews are white, like the Fuzzy Counselor, this delusional guy says over here that the Jews were in black, all right? The Jews were in black. Now, if the Jews are white, now the question has to be, why would God, in all knowledge and wisdom, being He's God, He's the creator of heaven and earth and everything else around it, in His wisdom, liken a white person to a black person? Because you compare like with like. You don't compare dislikes, right? You compare like with like. So if you're going to say liken someone to be the children of Israel and you pick the Ethiopians, that means they have to be of the same color, or almost same ethnicity, or same look. They must be looking alike, because up till today the Ethiopians are still black with nappy hair. So God would be a fool right here, all right, to compare the children of Israel, if they were white, to a black nation in Ethiopia. Doesn't that make sense? Isn't that logical? Now, this deluded person, Fuzzy Counselor, even his name should even tell you that this guy is deluded. Fuzzy. He doesn't have an understanding of what he's saying. So that's the first delusional comment I've gone through, and we'll go through the next one. So the next delusional person is called Damain, all right? Damain said, here, I'm just going to read his comment. He said, damn, Beyonce is a dude too. No, my hand are about the same distance to the crotch area, and I'm dude. It doesn't go below. Some people have longer arms than others. So I asked him, all right, since you say you're a dude and you have these features, all right, that make you look like female, I asked him, show us pics of yourself in briefs, back view, front view, and side view without your face. Put up the links and back up what you say. So look at what he's saying. I am not going to do that. I am not lying. Ha ha. You see how crazy these people are? This is a deluded person. I asked him, back up your comments, and he says he's not going to do it. So why make the comment in the first place if you can't back up your statements? Because I mean, this is how retarded people are, right? Delusional people. You say your arms are shorter, right? And that makes you suspiciously a woman even though you're a man. Back it up. Show us proof. But they don't. They run away. So I'm going to move on to the next comment, and that will be the final comment for the day, delusional person, okay? So the next delusional person happens to be Joseph Valentine right here. You can go look for the dude and read up his comments. He said, tricks of the trades. Well, I'm not going to say the word because he called me this. I'm not really offended by it because I'm going to prove at the end of today's video, because I can't say the word here. I don't want to offend any black person or whatever the case might be. But by the end of this video, you get to find out that even though he's calling me black, I mean, we are all black. By the end of this video, you know that for sure, that we are all black, all right? So, but the case in point of what I'm trying to talk about in Joseph Valentine, he's saying to me that if I think Floyd is a born female, then I am off. All right. He said, trust me, women can box like Floyd or take the pain they have been put on him in the ring. You're off, and you should appreciate someone telling you this. In doing so, you can better hone in your observation. Now, if you go reading this guy's comments, he said that he had to unsubscribe. Now, for someone who says he has to unsubscribe for me calling Floyd Mayweather, right, a female and showing facts, he spent a lot of time trying to to deride me. He was just insulting me. Well, he feels I'm insulted. He's just insulting me and saying all sorts of stuff. And then I asked him, then there's one thing he said, all right? He said, let me see if I can find that comment real quick. Just give me one quick second. So this is what he was saying, that him and Floyd Mayweather, that means he was a boxer like Floyd Mayweather, came up in the rankings together. I know this is a shield, a deluded person, but I'm gonna go towards more like a shield. He's one of Floyd's agents, you know. He said, I wasn't near as talented as Floyd. So now the question I had asked him earlier was, let me see if I can find that question. I asked him, let me see. Okay, I asked him this question. I'm not going to say the word, but you guys can see it already. I said, have they ever told you about, I asked him the question, have they told you about steroids that can make a horse feel less pain? You ain't telling me. I said some bad word here. If you say I'm wrong, tell me how Floyd has a dildo strapped to his crotch, and I'll believe you. Now, because of this, I'm going to show you the picture that I'm talking about, because this is in the picture of Floyd Mayweather's video, which we have on our channel. Now, if you look at this man, this so-called man right here, you can see that this man is flaring from above his navel. That's why he wears such big shorts. So you don't see that he has hips. He's flaring all the way down. Now, I'm going to even make this picture much more bigger so you guys can see what I'm talking about. All right, let me see if I can increase it as much as I can. You can see this picture is blurry because it contains the fine details of what Floyd looks like. So whosoever put it up made it blurry, but it's there for a reason. As you can see, Floyd has hips. He's spreading all the way out like a female. Can you see that? He's spreading all the way out. All right. And the widest point as he's tapering out is right around here, which is above, which is below his crotch. And look at this. Is this a man's genitals or this is a dildo? You can see from the picture right here that they increased it. Why is it hanging that way? A man's genital doesn't hang that way. This is how dildos are strapped. Because the dildo is always straight, so it's not going to hang down. It's going to always hang sideways. So when you're strapping on a dildo, if you're a female, and you guys, I'm not talking about those females who are homosexual now, all right? And they put on a strap on because the dildo is straight. So when you put it inside your shorts or pants, all right, or your underwear, if you're a female, it's going to hang that way. Why is this thing hanging this way? Because this is no man's genital. This is a dildo strapped to Floyd Mayweather, as you can see, right? So with Joseph Valentine talking to me, he has to answer the question, why is this thing down here? And why is Floyd spreading? His hips are spreading for a male. So you can see right here that Joseph Valentine is very, very delusional. So I told him in this video, I told him that because he brought that subject up, that he's gonna make even Floyd Mayweather more popular, because when people look at this picture, because somebody probably has never watched the Floyd Mayweather video, but they're probably gonna watch the Michelle Obama because of Joseph Valentine's stupid comments, which he should have just let things lie and let it be gone. Now people are gonna look more into Floyd Mayweather because of the Michelle Obama video that I'm making. And look at his hips are still spreading out with a dildo strap because Floyd is a female. You guys watch the Floyd Mayweather video if you want to see more of what I talked about. So now let's get into something that I did notice while I was it's some news on the Pope. Then we get into the subject of talking about the black and white issue, which we're going to bury for good today. All right. So here is Pope Francis playing the game, that game of diversion and compartmentalization, so that people don't know that he's the one running both sides, whether it be US, Russia, and the whole wide world. The Vatican runs it. So here is him playing the diversion tactics. So you just think that he's just one of the power players in the world, and is not the power player. So this article was on July 9th. You can pause the video and copy that out there and go read it. It says Pope Francis warns of dangerous alliance between US and Russia. So in the news today, they're trying to make you think that, you know, that President Putin and Russia had an influence over the elections. I mean, this is how retarded these people actually make you want to believe stuff. So I've talked about the fact that there is no way the Russia could influence US elections, because you have to get into all computers and manipulate that, even if it's possible. Because you have to understand the electoral college is the one who elects the president, not the United States population. So if anybody had the right to fix the election, which they always do, especially for the presidential election, is the electoral college. That's who you ought to blame. But they're making all this pass out in the media just because they want to give you something to feed on. And since people can think, they're going to buy into it. So that's why the Pope steps in now and tries to make it look like, oh, Russia and the United States shouldn't have an alliance. It's a dangerous alliance. When he is the one running both sides. He's the one running everything. I mean, the Vatican is, not him in person, but the Vatican is, and the people behind it. So you can go read up this document, and I'll just read something quite short from that. It says, Pope Francis has expressed concern about a very dangerous alliance between the US and Russia, saying its leaders are among those that have distorted the vision of the world when it comes to immigration. By the time we get done with this video, you will know that all roads, I meant to say, point to the Vatican. So we'll start that in a quick second. All right, and let's go. Now, to kick off the subject that we're talking about today, in which I'm going to show you with facts that the world is indeed black and it's not white. I'll show you with some other stuff, but I don't know if I should start here. Okay, let me just start here, all right? So you can pause the video and go copy this link out and go read it. Now, this is an essay or a story written by Benjamin Franklin. As you can see, it's digital history. That means it's talk about this is real history now. It's this article was written by Benjamin Franklin in the year 1751, and what he's talking about is America as a land of opportunity. All right. Now we're not going to waste time to read the whole document, but if you want to, you can pause the video, and then the question you have to ask is, why is this particular document or letter not taught in schools? All right, it's not in your history books. You hear nothing about it. All right, So let's scroll down the letter because I want you guys to see something that's very, very truthful, and it's gonna change the way your perception of how you think. Now, what I want to start to read, okay, is I'm going to start to read this from here. You can always go look for the document yourself. Like I said, you can pause the video and copy out that link right there and go look for it. Okay, now I'm going to start reading here from this letter that was written in 1751 by Benjamin Franklin, a founding father of the United States of America. So this is not some, I always try to show you facts right on this particular channel, so you guys have to read with me. So let's start reading. It says, and since detachments of English from Britain sent to America will have their places at home so soon supplied and increased so largely here. So he's saying the detachments from England, all right, are going to America and gonna have some place to call home, and they're going to increase largely here. Why should the Palatine Boers, right? Palatine Boers here is talking about Germans. That's the name that they had way back in the day, right? Why do the Palatine Boers be suffered to swarm into our settlements? So Benjamin Franklin here is asking a question why they would allow Germans to swarm into English settlements in the United States of America, and by herding together establish their language and manners to the exclusion of ours. Because the Boers, the Palatine Boers, probably had a much, let's say, greater population than the people settlers from the Americas. So it was becoming a problem in the sense that they would Germanize the English. Now let's keep on reading. Why should Pennsylvania, founded by the English, become a colony of aliens? So he's saying that the Pennsylvania, a colony, all right, the colony of Pennsylvania, or the state of Pennsylvania as is today, why should it become a colony of aliens? That means people who are not English, all right, who will surely be so numerous and as to Germanize us instead of our anglifying them, and will never adopt our language or customs any more than can acquire our complexion. So that's a weird statement for him to make. So he's saying that the Germans, because the Palatine Boers are alien and they're going to be numerous, right? They are going to Germanize them instead of them anglifying them, because even their complexion was different. But in today's world, you're taught that Germans are white. Now that's kind of more like a statement that's at odds with itself, because if Britain, right, is white, as is the case might be today, and the Germans are white, as they say they are today, as we see now, then the complexion thing wouldn't be really a problem. So now you're getting to find out right here that he's at odds because the complexion of the Germans are different from the Britons. So let's keep reading so we can verify what this dude in Benjamin Franklin is actually saying. So we continue. He says, which leads me to add one remark, that the number of purely white people in the world is proportionally very small. Now, this is from Benjamin Franklin, so nobody's saying I'm making this up, all right? He's saying the population of white people in the world is very, very small, okay? In 1751, let's keep reading. He said, all Africa is black or tawny. Now, someone might say, what's the meaning of tawny? So I'm going to give you a definition of tawny so we can read on so you can understand. So tawny here means of an orange brown or yellowish brown color, right? An orange brown or yellowish brown color. Now let's see in Google what the images of a tawny could look like. So you guys have probably heard of the tawny owl, right? And as you can see right here, this owl ain't white. It's black or brown as black people are. And here is the color of a tawny, right? Can you see that? That's the color of tawny. This ain't white. So let's continue reading, all right? It says, Asia chiefly is tawny. So Asia, according to this, is still black, all right? Let's keep on reading. It says, America exclusive of the newcomers wholly so. So America. So when Christopher Columbus landed in America, what he saw was black people. As you can see from this statement, that he's saying America is exclusive, is black, exclusive of the newcomers. Who were the newcomers? Right? The white written people. But let's keep on reading so you can actually understand. But before I keep on reading, let me show you what the meaning of India is, because you probably hear the word red Indian. You know, way back in the day, India, the word India means black. Now people are going to say, what did you say? The word, I'm going to say it again. India means black. I'm going to show you how and why that's the case. Now here is the meaning. I typed this out in Google and say India means black, just to see what kind of references would come up. Okay, it says here Hind, right? I want you guys to read it with me. Say Hind means India in the Persian literature. Hindi or Hindu means Indian. So that means from Hindi, Hindu, you get the word Indian. These words used to have the same meaning from ancient era up to now, but in some era a secondary meaning. So when the white Vatican wants to lie to you, all right, they have to start twisting words, all right. So you have to spot that when you're reading stuff. It says, but in some era a secondary meaning was also assigned to the word Hindi or Hindu, which was slave or black. Can you see that? I didn't say this. I'm just reading to you. Tricks of the Trade did not say this. I'm just reading to you what's out there. So let's go back to Benjamin Franklin's letter. He said that America is black, right? Exclusive of the newcomers, which happens to be Benjamin Franklin and his so-called ancestors who landed, wholly so. And let's keep on reading. It says America is black, and in Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes are generally of what we call a swarthy complexion. So in Europe in 1751, Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes are generally of what we call a swarthy complexion. So before we go any further, let's find out what the meaning of swarthy is. You guys can go type this out in your search engine and find out. Now, swarthy means dark skinned. I did not say this. I'm just reading facts to you. Swarthy means dark skinned. Now let's find out, because I typed this out on Google, right? So let it not be that Tricks of the S Trade is lying to you. Let's show you another meaning in Bing. And here is Bing. Swarthy, all right? Dark skinned. Right? Let's go to synonyms of swarthy. It says dark-skinned, olive-skinned, dusky, tanned, sandtone, black. Black. See that again? Black. So when he says swarthy here, what he's saying that in Europe, the so-called Europe nowadays that, you know, white people and the white Vatican has made to look like blacks never existed. Now the question they have to ask, if you've ever been in Europe and you go to a lot of like the old cathedrals, especially in eastern part of Europe, because they did a fine job of whitewashing the western part. They haven't totally done it, because you still have some pictures of black people and they'll tell you it's Moors, right? Just telling, when they attach the name Moors, they're trying to make you feel like, you know, these were black people who invaded from maybe Africa. You know what I mean? They are not the descendants of Europe. Does it make sense? But as you can see from this letter, all these people were black people with nappy hair like the so-called Africans. From this letter. So if you go to Europe, you see all those statues of black people and you see black emblems and black badges in Europe. But the so-called white Vatican will always tell you it's a slave, someone from Africa, or, you know, it's a Moor. So they can hide the real history. But Benjamin Franklin, I'm using your own document right here. This is not me talking. I'm using your own document so you can actually see. All right. So let's keep on reading. It says, Europe, I'll read it again. And in Europe, the Spaniards were black, the Italians were black, the French were black, Russians were black, and Swedes are generally of what we call a black complexion. So are the Germans also. Wow. The Saxons only accepted who with the English make the principal body of white people on the face of the earth. So as at 1751, all right, the Saxons and the English were primarily the white people in the world. Not like there weren't white people around, but they were like the main principal body of white folks around. Because as you can see here, all those countries that I just mentioned, the Spaniards, the Italians, the French, Russians, and Swedes mentioned by Benjamin Franklin, including the Germans, were all black folk. So now the question we now have to ask, now when you start thinking about this, right, you start wondering, okay, how did they all become white? Now, what I did notice while studying the history of Europe, like, is that these black people over there, right, during those ages before this 1751, were going through a lot of fighting. They were fighting over anything and everything, all right? But I could understand the reason what the reason for the fights was. But what I did notice was that every time they fought, all right, and somebody won, they accumulated more land. They accumulated more kingdoms or whatsoever. And so it was like an amalgamation of lands, all right, which leads us to the fact that all this fighting must have been instigated by someone. And who else do you think it is that would instigate all those fighting? To merge the world and make it into, like, you know, what's the right word? I'm trying to find the right word here. I'm missing my words. What's the right word? I've run out of words. The only right word I can find here is to aggregate. All right. So the more these black people fought, because the fight was based on two things only, like religion and kingdoms. That's what it was. And so the more they fought, I found out that any person who won aggregated more land. So that leads me to know that the devil was all behind it, trying to put together the one world system, which he's always wanted, so that he can run the world before Yahushua comes back. That's the only thing that I could find that makes sense. So I read on. It said, so as you can see right here from Benjamin Franklin, the Saxons were white together with the English, but they weren't always white. They were white as at 1751. So let's keep reading. I could wish, this is what Benjamin Franklin now says, I could wish their numbers were increased. So he wished, this was the Vatican's plan, to increase the number of white people in the world. So when you see places like Australia, all right, Mexico, Brazil, and all those countries being white, it makes a lot of sense, which I'm going to show you. All right. It says, and while we are, as I may call it, scoring our planet, so you can see they were looking, trying to make the world more white to reflect their leadership, right? By clearing America of woods, and so making this side of our globe reflect a brighter light to the eyes of the inhabitants in Mars or Venus. So they're trying to make the world more white. And have they succeeded? Yes. Let's keep on reading. Why should we, in the sight of superior beings, darken its people? Like I've always said, the natural color of man is black. It's not white. And I'll show you from where the white thing came up to be. So he said, why increase the sons of Africa? That means why increase blackness? By planting them in America, where we have a fair and opportunity, by excluding all blacks and tawnies. Wow. So they wanted to exclude all the Spaniards who were black, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes, and Germans. Right? It says, by excluding all blacks and tawnies, of increasing the lovely white and red, but perhaps impartial to the complexion of my country, for such of partiality is natural to mankind. So, as you can see now, the world even at 1751 was still primarily black people, as Benjamin Franklin said. And let's start to see how he started to turn white, okay? So I start with the history of Mexico. Now remember, according to Benjamin Franklin, in 1751, the world was still primarily made of black people, okay? Black as in the sons of Africa, or the so-called Africans as they say today. Now, if you notice, I'm reading the history of Mexico from the Wikipedia page, and as usual, you must always read with some sense. Don't just believe everything and think about it if it makes logical sense. It says here, pre-Columbian Mexico was home to many advanced Mesoamerican civilizations. That means they were all black people, such as the Olmec, Toltec, Teotihuacan, Zapotec, Maya, and Aztec before the first contact with Europeans. Now, here's one thing I want you guys to know about the so-called slave trade. Now, when you hear that Europeans said that they discovered all nations in the world and that they shipped a lot of slaves and the transatlantic slave trade, that is a cover story, because you have to understand the transatlantic or the slave trade in general was not what the white supremacists or white Vatican today makes it to be. You have to understand, prior to 1751, like I've told you before this, there were a lot of wars in Europe. If you go read the history of Europe, you'll find there were so many wars because these black people over there were just fighting over themselves, left, right, and center, over religion and everything else, the Protestant Reformation and all that kind of stuff. Now, the fighting led to a very unstable Europe. So a lot of people who lived in Europe were tired of fighting. So what happened was those blacks started moving out of Europe on ships across many other continents. So a lot of these voyages that you see, that they say that are Atlantic, or slave trade ships, were actually voyages running away from the instability in Europe caused by war, all right, and fighting, trying to find new lands. So these black people sailed all around the world through the Americas. They were in the Americas before Columbus came, all right? They sailed all the way to Africa, because you have to understand that if Africa is totally black, a white person coming to Africa and trying to colonize a black nation would be very, very impossible, because they're not going to see him as one of theirs. So the people who touched base in Africa were black people who found all these new lands from Australia down to the Americas, all fleeing from Europe. So those voyages weren't actually Atlantic slave ships. There were few of them, but not that much. So let's keep on reading so you can actually see that after Benjamin Franklin had said this, that white people, or let's say the Vatican, which was now white, primarily white at that time, started. Because if you notice in Benjamin Franklin's story here, let me just pull that up again so you can actually see what I'm saying. So as you can see right here, it mentions that the Italians, all right, were still black. So that means the Vatican at that point in time was still primarily a black, right, Vatican. But like I've always said before, it doesn't matter if the Vatican is white, black, or anything. It is run by the devil. And since they run the world will still continually be run by the devil until Yahushua comes back. So that doesn't really matter. So let's go back to the story now of to see when stuff started changing. So remember the year that Benjamin Franklin said that the whole nation is, the whole world primarily is black, was 1751. So we read here, that Colombia, pre-Columbian Mexico was home to many advanced Mesoamerican civilizations such as the Olmec, Toltec, and Teotihuacan, and Zapotec, Maya, and Aztec before the first contact with Europeans. In 1521, the Spanish Empire conquered and colonized the territory from its base in Mexico, Tenochtitlan. Sorry if I'm messing that up, which was administered as the viceroyalty of New Spain. Now it says 3 centuries later. That means, remember, when people when people say something, they the best way to put it is that when the people who run the world now, the Vatican, tries to say something, because you have to understand that Benjamin Franklin was a high degree Freemason, right? That means he was connected to the Black Vatican at that point. But since they were white now and they're trying to take a hold of the leading order, all right, they have to write these statements in such a cunning way, such that the Black Vatican at that point in time wouldn't know that this is what they were actually saying. So I'm going to read that to you so you can understand before I go further, all right? So Benjamin Franklin here said that he wished he could increase the numbers of the white people. It was a wish. That means when Europe was in amidst its fighting and black people were fleeing from Europe, all right, because of the fighting that was happening in Europe all the way down to Russia, all right, the white people down there were looking at an advantage of taking over, all right, taking over. So here's now he's just saying it is a wish, because he doesn't know if he gets caught by the majority black population wishing that he could make things more wider, he would be in problem. So let's continue reading. He says you can also see he says of increasing the lovely white and red. So when we go back to the story now of Mexico, you can see that Mexico 3 centuries, which almost falls into the time of 1751 that Benjamin Franklin was talking about, right? He says 3 centuries later, this territory became Mexico, following recognition in 1821 after the colonies' Mexican War of Independence, all right? The tumultuous post-independence period was characterized by economic instability and many political changes. So what political changes do you think happened? The whites were killing the blacks, all right? Killing the blacks, the indigenous aboriginal people, making them slaves, that like they did in the United States of America and the America as a whole, and they tell you that they came from Africa when they were not. They were really black people here. That's what they were busy doing. Killing the males, right? And taking the women, raping them, as the case may be, and implanting with them white seed. So let's go over to Brazil and see what happened again. All right. Now Brazil, so you can start seeing how the world started getting white. It says Brazil was inhabited by numerous tribal nations prior to the landing in 1500. Can you see it's almost the same time as the Mexican thing here too? So let's keep reading. It says explorer Pedro Cabral, who claimed the area for the Portuguese Empire. Brazil remained a Portuguese colony until 1808. All right? So that means Brazil was primarily still black until that time, because from 1751 to 1808 is roughly about 59 years. So 59 years after the wishes of the white people who had started taking over, right, the control structures, the power structures of Europe, right, they started to make sure that they were taking the power over the power structures of any other place around, just like Benjamin Franklin has wished. How about Australia? So let's go to Australia now. It says after the European discovery of the continent by Dutch explorers in 1606, Australia's eastern half was claimed by Great Britain in 1770. What did Benjamin Franklin say in 1751? Right? He wished that they would increase the number of white people around the world. That's why they slaughtered the aboriginal black people of Australia and totally annihilated the Tasmanians. We don't have Tasmanians anymore. This is their wish, and that's how the world started getting whiter. All right? So let me read to you another history of Brazil, so you can understand what was really going on. So it doesn't just seem like Tricks of the S Trade is just talking. I'm showing you facts. You can pause the video and copy out this link right there and go read it yourself. And I'm going to read a few sentences. It says, once abolition took hold in Brazil, planters and others who had previously owned slaves had to look elsewhere for their labor. This stimulated a remarkable surge in immigration. Can you see that? Immigration of who? White folk who were never indigenous to Brazil. Let's continue reading. Especially from the southern European countries, Portugal, Spain, and Italy. So by this time, just like Benjamin Franklin had said, the white people had succeeded in taking over the Vatican at this point. As you can see, he says Portugal, Spain, and Italy, because that was the power structure of the world. Let's keep reading. He said, these immigrants were skilled at a variety of crafts. They spoke Portuguese or language that was similar enough to allow them to communicate. They were perceived as racially superior to the vast population of employed Afro-Brazilians. That means the Americas was full with black people with nappy hair. They said they were perceived to be racially superior to the vast population. That means it was totally a black place. Unemployed Afro-Brazilians. I don't want to read any further. So now we want to get to the subject of understanding how people become white. All right? And where the term comes from. All right? So with that, we turn to where should I start this particular topic? I'm trying to reason where I should start it from. So because this is going to take a bit of a while. So before I get into this particular part, I want to play something from Martin Luther, because in my understanding, in what I've come to understand, the only true black leaders that have ever existed was Martin Luther, who is dead, and his family is run today by the Vatican. They get paid, so they can't tell you what their father said, and I can't blame them. They're getting paid for their silence. So who wants to die? Everybody wants to live, so why not just take the money and shut the hell up? The other person that I think who always speaks the truth, I don't know if he still speaks the truth up till now, is Cat Williams. Cat Williams is one of the most, I think he would be one of the most respected black people or black folk that I would ever say would be a true leader. That's why Cat Williams is in so much trouble, because he says the truth. If you watch his comedy shows, everything he says is actually very true, but people are laughing about it because they think it's entertainment. When Cat Williams says, like, in a way that, you know, the world is all black. He doesn't say it that way particularly. He says it like, you know, how black people sometimes call black people in terms of endearment. I'm not going to say this on this channel because I'm very respectful. So you understand that Cat Williams is one of the most truthful people. Now, what we have today, all right, is one of the worst set of black leadership that has ever existed. Principle in people like Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson coined the term African American because the Vatican paid him to. Because they always try to make you think that black people all came from Africa when they have been indigenous to all lands in this world. So, like we're saying, we're going to tackle the subject and show you that when white people say that they are white, they don't know what they're saying. Because white people are actually black people who've lost the ability to produce melanin, as I'm going to show you with facts on this particular video. Now, this set of, you know, black people who are now leaders are one of the worst. I would say they're worse than dogs. Be it Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson, because I don't understand why Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton are still alive if Martin Luther King is dead. Because if they were working for him and behind him with the civil rights movement, why are they still alive? That shows you that these people are not who they claim to be. They were either working for the white supremacist Vatican at that point in time, which they are still working to up till now, and that's why they are still alive. All right? So the reason why I'm gonna play this video, but I'm not gonna play the video. It's actually gonna be because I don't want to get any copyright issues on the video. I'm gonna play the audio. When the audio is done, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna explain to you what this fake black leader, whose name happens to be Umar Johnson. If you've ever heard of Dr. Umar Johnson, he's the worst liar on the face of the world that you can ever be with, besides Barack Obama. Why do I say Dr. Umar Johnson tells a lie? because he tries to make people, black people, think that they all came from Africa. He's still supporting the ideology that the Vatican has passed on to call them African Americans, so they never know that they were black and indigenous to the Americas, just like Benjamin Franklin has said, in which I show you. So I'm going to play the audio and see how Dr. Umar Johnson speaks in Masonic code, and people don't even get it. He's one of the worst liars of all time. I mean, the guy has great oratory skills. If you ever sat close to Dr. Umar Johnson, I would tell you run away, because the guy knows how to talk, and he could deceive you very, very well, because his words are so sweet like honey. All right, they lift you and make you feel like you're the greatest. I mean, the guy knows how to talk. That's just what I'm saying. I wouldn't want to be in the presence of the man, because it could either mean that he's either demonically possessed to be able to have those kind of words in which they can swing a man's, tingle your ears and swing you left to right and center, just like Barack Obama. So I'm gonna play that, and then we're gonna analyze what he actually said. All right. So here is the video that I'm gonna play. I'm actually gonna put it up in the description section. So if you guys want to go listen to it, then you can go listen to it. But I'm just gonna play the audio only. I'm not gonna play the video. All right. So the video was made by this so-called, this is also a very bad Freemasonic shill working for the Vatican, and his name is Roland Martin. Now the discussion was happened when I think Roland Martin was talking to Dr. Umar Johnson about this beating death of a tourist. Now I'm gonna play the video. I won't say anything then when we get done, because I want you guys to listen, because I'm gonna explain what these dudes were actually saying, which people didn't catch. Anybody who's listening to Dr. Umar Johnson as a truth seeker, I want you to quit right now after watching this video, because I'm gonna show you what this guy was actually saying. All right, I'm gonna break it down to you so you can understand. I'm gonna play the video as an audio clip. I'm not gonna play the video itself, just the audio, so you can hear it, and then we'll talk. Okay.
Was on 105.1 FM out of New York, The Breakfast Club with DJ Envy, Angela Yee, and Charlemagne the God. During the interview, Johnson talked about a whole range of issues. It led to him being the talk of Black Twitter last week, and a lot of people were questioning his educational credentials.
Now, people ask me, what can we expect from a Donald Trump White House for Black?
Last week, and a lot of people were questioning his educational credentials.
Now, people ask me, what can we expect from a Donald Trump White House for Black America? And the answer is real simple. You can expect exactly what you got from a Obama White House. Absolutely nothing. Black people know they're not American, but they will fight like hell to protect that identity, because they don't want to be identified.
If you heard what that man just said, he said black people know they are not Americans. He is instilling the mind control that the Vatican wants black people to think, who are in Americas, that they are not Americans. Black people in the Americas are the indigenous people of the United States of America. The slave trade that they talk about, I've talked about it, I think, on the Cave and Bacon video. You can go watch that, and also the Shakira video. There were very few black slaves, very few, that came from Africa to the United States. The whole entire slave population was made of indigenous Indians, blacks, because I've just proved to you that the word India actually means black, who were residing. And you've just seen with Benjamin Franklin, who says that the Americas was black. So here is Dr. Umar Johnson telling a lie, instilling into your mind that you, being black in America, are from Africa. He's doing the work of the Vatican. All right, so I'll play the video when he's done with what he's trying to say. Then I'll come back and explain some more stuff. So I'll just keep playing it, and you guys keep listening. I'm just gonna play the audio, like I said, no video on this one. Okay.
With who they really are, and that's being African. As long as you have a skill, you can always feed your family. But if all you got is college degrees, you might end up in the unemployment line. I'm a psychologist. Ain't too many black people running around looking for a psychologist to reveal all the skeletons in their closet.
All right, folks, joining us right now, Dr. Umar Johnson. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
First and foremost, it was amazing looking at this whole reaction. I mean, I'm sitting here, again, people asking all kind of questions, things are blowing up. And so many people jumped on saying he's not a real doctor, okay? Where did you graduate from and you got your PhD?
My undergraduate education was from Millersville University. 3 degrees, political science, psychology, master's in school psychology. Subsequent to that, Pennsylvania certification as a school psychologist, which I've been for almost 20 years. After that, I got my educational leadership master's degree and principal certificate from Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And I earned my doctorate degree from the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, American Psychological Association approved program, one of the top psychology training programs on the East Coast. 6 degrees in all. And anyone can lift up a telephone and call and verify those degrees.
So people, you probably never caught that. You probably heard that, but I made a transcript of what this dude actually said, and I'm gonna show to you what this dude actually means. So here is the transcript. I'm gonna blow it up on my screen so you can actually see it. And here is the transcript. Now the transcript says Roland Martin. So like I said, I'll put a link in the description so you can go watch the video yourself. It says Roland Martin now asked Dr. Umar Johnson, where did you graduate from and your PhD? And this is the response from Dr. Umar Johnson. He says, undergraduate education was from Millersville University, 3 degrees. 3 degrees. What do you think he's saying? He's telling the people who are listening, the Vatican, the white supremacist Vatican, that you don't have to worry about anything that's coming forth from my lips. You guys know I'm vetted. So I'm going to keep reading so you can understand the code, Masonic code that this guy is talking. He says, undergraduate education was from Millersville University, 3 degrees in political science, psychology, masters in school psychology. Goodness gracious. Political science, psychology. That means he's twisting the minds of black people, and they think that he is speaking for them when he's actually speaking against them. Masters in school psychology. Then what next does he say? He says, subsequent to that Pennsylvania certification as a school psychologist, right, which I have been for almost 20 years after that, educational leadership masters in principal certificate from Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and I earned my doctorate degree from the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, American Psychological Association approved program, one of the top psychology training programs on the East Coast. So this guy is all about twisting lies and telling the black American public that he's speaking for them when he's actually speaking against them. Let me continue reading. It says, one of the top psychology training programs on the East Coast, 6 degrees. 6 degrees. 6. So he's a 33rd degree Freemason. So because here's what it's actually saying. He's got 3 degrees from one university, 3 degrees from other actual universities, making what? 33 degrees. He's saying I'm a 33 degree Freemason. So he's adding them together and saying 6 here. Then he's saying 6 degrees in all. Anyone can lift up the phone and call and verify those degrees. What does he mean by 6 degrees in all? Anyone can lift up the telephone and call and verify those degrees. He keeps on saying verify those degrees. He's not talking to the public. He's telling the Vatican, you know I'm a Freemason. So whatever I'm feeding these people out here is nonsense. You don't have to worry about it. Pick up the phone. That means pick up the phone and verify, and you know that I'm a Freemason. That is what Dr. Umar Johnson is doing. And then people are going to go sitting crowded to this fool and actually think he's speaking for black people when he's speaking against them. Because you heard from the statement that he made that black Americans think they are black. They're not black, but they'll fight for United States of America like if they were from the United States of America when they're actually African. You heard that. I'll put the link up so you can go read it. So let's get back to why the Vatican is so busy, okay, trying to make black people think that they are Africans, or that the world, that any black person you find anywhere in the world is black because he comes from Africa, right? The Vatican always continues to tell lies about race every day. So, for example, if you fill out a job application or you go to a hospital and you ask people, and the hospital asks you, right, to identify your race, why do they say that? Because they want you to make sure that you still have the knowledge of segregation and racism dominant in your mind. That is the reason why. Because if you go to a hospital or you go for a job and someone asks you what race you are, they're implanting the memory of racism in your mind. Because in truth, there is only one race. It's a black human race, which I'm going to prove by the end of this video as you keep watching. All right? So I'm trying to find where to start explaining where the concept of whiteness is from. So the next slides I'm going to show you is some pictures, because there's a misconception, that white people feel that blacks look a certain way and white people look a certain way. So for example, what am I trying to say? They'll say that a white person always has long hair. A white person will always have like maybe a pointy nose. A white person will have thick lips. And in the case of Asians, they say, that only Asians have that Asiatic look, and that means that they are different from black people. So the pictures and slides I'm going to show you, most of the slides I'm going to show you are people from the jungle of Africa, because I'm going to use what the white supremacist Vatican uses, because they always make Africa look like it's a third world country. There are people running around as chimpanzees and monkeys with nothing on. So I'm going to use their own logic to prove what they're saying, to see if it's right or wrong. So I'm going to show you some slides. So let's get into it. So here are the slides. It's normally believed that only white people have straight hair. So that means black people can't. Now, all the pictures I'm showing you are black straight from the jungles. That's, the white Vatican always makes you believe, and white supremacists, that they are from the jungle. So we're going to accept that they're from the jungle on these slides, as you can look. And here is a black person. Is that long straight hair? Yes, it is. Is it nappy hair? No, this is a black person. Long hair. Next slide. Next picture. That's the same fellow, so you can see it's black with long hair. Long straight hair, right? Like a white person would say that they only have. That black people look a certain type of way, all right? Some more slides for you. Is that a black person? Long, straight, fine hair, black from the jungles of Africa, as you can see. Still has his nose rings and it's black. All right, long straight hair. There's no denying. So white people won't say, oh, blacks only look a certain type of way. We only have white hair. Let's keep going. Is that a black person deep inside the jungles of Africa? Deep inside the third world country? Yes, it is. And what does he have? Black straight hair, just like a white person has. Next slide. And look at that. Black again. Black, long, straight hair. Now, this is hair that's not gone through any type of chemical treatment or not. It is just this way. Straight hair, right? Straight, like a white person would say they only have. So next slide. Still the same person again. As you can see, long, straight hair. And look at that. Another black person. Long, straight hair. All right. And look at that. Black from the jungles of Africa. Can you see that? He's got his hair tied up. All right. In some sort of row. But it's still long, straight hair, as you can see the strands. So is the story true that only white people have straight hair? That's a fiction of your mentality. You've watched way too much TV. You're brainwashed. There's another picture. Look at that. Long straight hair. Just like white folk. But these are blacks deep inside the jungles of Africa, as you can see. It's probably not feeding right. But you can still see the strands of hair along. No treatment. Remember, inside the jungles of Africa, they have no access to texturizers or relaxers, all right? And just for the notice, I just want to say something. When you see a black woman wearing a weave, she's not wearing a weave because she hates her hair. It's just because black hair is very complicated. The more complex things are, the more advanced they are. So when you see a black woman with a weave, doesn't mean she hates her hair. She just doesn't want to deal with complicated stuff or advanced stuff. She wants to deal with simple stuff. All right? Make sense? Okay? That's the slide for now. I'm going to pick up another slide and show you some other things. All right? So let's go. Now on this next slide, there is the myth that only white people have pointy noses. That means if you see a black person can never have a pointed nose. All right? I mean, I met someone who put that comment up when I was trying to talk about something and say, oh no, how come he's no, we've heard black people or white people didn't come from black people, because I said that they have noses that are open, large nostrils and everything else. But we're gonna find out here. Now this is deep inside the jungles of Africa. As you can see, is Fulani, and Fulani I think is a tribe that exists. I think in the, if I'm right, hold on a second. Let me think here. They exist where have I heard that? I think in Niger. I think Niger and Nigeria. I think there are two countries in Africa by the name Niger and Niger. And just for folks, for you to understand, the word that Niger is a Latin word which means black, all right? And they're naming this countries black. That's just what it means, because I think Niger and Nigeria means that. So here is Fulani I think is a tribe that exists in one of those places. I'm not too sure. So you can see right here, this dude has a pointy nose like a white dude. So is it true that blacks only have those large nostrils and large lips? Because can you see the lips right here? They are just as tiny as any Caucasian's lips, small lips, not puffy or big, right? So does that make you think that only white people have this kind of features? No, because that goes to show you that we're all black, all right? And some just lost the color. Let's keep going. That's a black man deep inside the jungles of Africa. Can you see with his tribal marks and everything over his head? But look at that nose. Is that the nose of a white dude? Yes, it is. Who is it on? A black fellow. So does that mean that only white people have pointy noses? Hell no. Let's keep going. Another picture. Look at that again. Look at that dude. That's a pointy nose. Deep inside the jungles of Africa, from a tribe called Fula. I think it's still Fulani as well. All right? And look at that. Is that a white dude? No. Is he black? Yes. So is it true that only white people have pointy noses? No. I'm not going through other black people around the world in different continents or different islands or wherever the case may be. I'm going straight into the jungles of Africa, in which the white supremacists always want to make us believe, the white Vatican, that these people they're not doing too well. They're a poor, broke people. All right? The black fella always trying to portray them. I'm using your own logic to show you. All right? Pointy nose. Next slide. Oh, damn, that's a beautiful black woman. But this is deep inside Africa. So, are black people not beautiful? I mean, this is a fine... Oh, goodness gracious. I'm almost going to curse her. But I'm not going to... Okay, this is a beautiful woman. But look at that nose. Is that nose... Does it look like the way black people are portrayed, with flaring noses, that all black people have flaring noses and thick lips? Okay. You watch way too much TV and you believe in your white TV and Vatican. All right, let's keep going. Look at this woman. Black. With a tribal max. And is that nose flaring like they usually say it is? No, it's not. It's a pointy nose, just like a white person. Okay, another picture. And look at that dude. Long pointy nose with his earrings, right? Look at that. Deep inside the jungles of Africa. So is that misconception that only white people have pointy noses? actually true? False. Next slide. I'm going to show you some other stuff. Let's go. Now, it is believed, a misconception, that only white people have a certain type of color. That means white people can only have like maybe brown hair, and it's not common to black folk. Or, that white people only have maybe blonde hair and all that kind of stuff. Well, I'm deep inside the jungles of Africa, and as you can see right here, this girl's hair is brown. Dang. So does that mean that white people only have this type of hair color? All right, let's go further. Look at that brown hair deep inside the jungles of Africa. The hair is colored brown and straight. Look at that, straight hair, just like a white person. So is that misconception actually true? No, it's not. Some more slides for you. Now, this one is, they say that, white people only have hazel, brown, or, blue or green eye. Now, this is somebody deep inside the jungles of Africa, right? He has blonde hair. It's straight. And what are the eye colors? It could be green, or it could be blue, or whatever the case might be. Does that mean that only white people have this type of eye color, and that only white people can be blonde? No. Can you see where I'm going now? Next slide. Oh, you know this guy, Eric Salmon, right? He's black, but he has green eyes. So does that mean that only white people have green eyes? Or what, almond eyes, or blue eyes, or green eyes? Does that mean that's the case? All right, another picture. You guys know this guy, Jeremy Meeks, right? He's very, very popular on social media now. What are the color of his eyes? So does only white people have this kind of eyes now? Oh, no, 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 no. All right, let's keep going. Today, I want to destroy the myth of whiteness for good. Let's keep going. Oh, dang, we know Michael Ealy, right? He got blue eyes. Does that mean that only white people have blue eyes? Oh, no. All right, next slide. Let's go further. And look at this child, deep inside the jungles of Africa. And he's got blue eyes. Oh, the poor kid may not even have food to eat. That's what the white supremacists would tell your white Vatican. They don't have food to eat, they're hungry. But he's got blue eyes. Does that mean that only white people got blue eyes? This is a child deep inside the jungles of Africa. He's got blue eyes. All right, let's keep going. And how about Rihanna? Is Rihanna white? No. What kind of eyes does Rihanna have? Green almond eyes. Does it mean that only white people have this kind of eye? No, it doesn't look so. Rihanna's black, and she's got green eyes. Okay, let's keep going. Look at that. This child probably doesn't have any food to eat. It's deep inside the jungles of Africa. But what kind of eyes does she have? Green almond eyes. Does it mean that only white people have green almond eyes? See how you've been deceived because you've been watching too much TV and believing in the myth of whiteness? There's no such thing. And I'm going to keep going. I'm going to show you with other facts. This is not the end of the story. So stay tuned. So here is a slide in which, white people believe that they're the only ones who have blonde hair. Black people don't have blonde hair. So they look a certain type of way. So we're different. All right? Now, before I go further, I just want to let you know, if you believe in the story of Neanderthals, right? I hope I'm saying it right. Neanderthals. That you have Neanderthal gene. So that makes you different from everybody else, and that makes you white. You are the biggest fool in the world, because the Vatican only created that, all right, to keep. No, this is how the Vatican actually works, all right? They won the race wars. We started out in Asia, all right, and got into Europe, all right? And they know that being black is the natural nature of human beings. So now, since they're in power, if they have to remain in power, they have to create a population of white people, just like Benjamin Franklin said, they ought to increase the whiteness for them to stay in power. All right? So what do? You breed white people. You'd send them or immigrate them all over the world, Australia, Russia, the case may be, Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, and everything else. You breed them, then you instigate racism to maintain the whiteness. You give white people benefits. So if I'm white and I get benefits from the government just because I'm white, I'm going to maintain the system of racism because I'm getting benefits. So you really don't have to do anything else than just to keep on making them have benefits. Now, people have to understand this. The Vatican doing that doesn't mean that they love white people. They're just using you to keep themselves in power. All right? They're using you. Because you have to understand, there are certain white people who have barked up the wrong tree and they've been treated worse than dogs. Why? Why didn't they respect their whiteness there and then? No, it's because it's not about being white. It's about being powerful. It's about power, about maintaining the Vatican as the ruling authority of white supremacy. That's what it's about. So we get back to the subject of those people who actually think that black people don't have blonde hair. There are people who actually believe that black people look a certain way. So today we're going to destroy the myth of whiteness from A to Z. And as you're looking right here, this is a boy deep inside the jungles of Africa. And does he have blonde hair? Oh, he sure does. And is the hair straight like a white person? Oh, yes, he sure does have one. Can you see that? All right, next slide. Another one. Deep inside the jungles of Africa, blonde-haired black children. They probably don't have any food to eat, as the white Vatican will always make you believe. Let's go help them out. We're using their own logic right here. Black, hungry children, no food to eat, so they don't have any way to paint that hair blonde, right? Natural. This is what these kids are. Natural blondes, right? All right, let's keep going. And look at this. A black kid in the midst of black children with red hair. So does that mean that a natural red hair is only white and can never be black, and that they look a certain way and they're different from the rest of the black people in the world? No. You can see that. This is a child with red hair. Next slide. And look at this dude. He has red beard. And he's a black dude. So does that mean that only white people now have red hair? Oh no, it's not true. All right, let's continue. The story is just beginning. Now on this next slide, it is commonly believed, because I've talked about white, but Asians think as well that they're the only people who have slant eyes. Now here is a black dude deep inside the continent of Africa, that third world country. You guys, the white supremacists, make it look like they always need help. All right, black people are poor and broken. We should help them. All right, look at this. He has slant eyes. So where do you think the Asians came from? All right, let's keep going. Next slide. Look at that. Deep inside the jungles of Africa with the cornrows and everything else. All right, hungry, doesn't have any food to eat, as you can see, slant eyes. So where do you think the Asians came from? Now, if you've been following so long so far, you probably start thinking, oh no. Okay? So we're going to get to the end of the story. It's just beginning. Let's keep going. Another slide. Where do you think this land eyes came from? Where do you think Asians came from? If they say that they're different from everybody else, that they're Asian and they're white, or Hispanic and white, or you're white as Caucasian, where did you think you come from now? Let's keep going. Look at that. Look at that man. You could pass that on man for a Chinese man or Japanese. Look at that. Slant eyes, Asian features. The only difference is the nappy hair. And we'll show you what makes hair straight and what makes hair nappy. So keep watching. Don't turn up. If you watched up to this point, just keep watching. Oh man, Asian only don't have slant eyes. That's very, very disappointing. Okay, let's keep going. Look at that. Look at that woman. Hungry in Africa. Look at the kid. Slant eyes like an Asian. So where do Asians think they came from now? Those who mistreat black people and say you're different. Because I watched a show one time in which I think it was a music show, and a child went up there to sing, and she was singing in Chinese, but she was black, and there was a lot of noise about, that child singing up because he was in China, right? And the child felt so bad. But they don't understand that they are all black. You just lost the color. I'm going to show you how, and show you why, and show you the reasons. Okay, let's keep going. Look at that man. Oh, man. This man probably doesn't have any food to eat, just like they say. But what eyes does he have? Slant eyes. Just like the Asians. So where do you think the Asians came from? Where do you think everybody comes from now? All right, let's keep going. And you know this dude. He's the most popular dude in South Africa. He's got slant eyes. You could pass him for an Asian, except that he still has his black skin color. Right? Does it make sense now? Nelson Mandela. Slant eyes. Oh my goodness. Why do Asians think that they are the only people who have slant eyes and they're different and they're white? Let's keep going. Look at that woman deep inside the jungles of Africa. Wow. Slant eyes. You could pass that for any Asian around. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's keep going. Look at this woman. Now this one is a little bit lighter skin. So this one could even pass as an Asian. Look at that. Slant eyes, Asian look, Asian features. Does that mean that only Asians have slant eyes now? Somebody better wake up. All right, let's go. Look at this folk. They probably don't have any food to eat. And you could pass them for Japanese or Chinese or whoever Asian they may look. Look at that. Slant eyes. Where do you think these people are right now? They're deep inside the jungles of Africa, as you can see right there. They probably don't have no clothes to wear. So does that mean that white people and Asian people only look a certain way and that's what makes them who they are? I don't think so. Next slide. Let's keep going. The story has just about to be started. Now you guys know who this is. This is Michael Jackson, right? And look at Michael. Michael has nappy hair. Michael probably thought he was African American, but he was a black indigenous aboriginal from the United States of America. He never knew that. And they used poor Jesse Jackson to change the term in 1980s from black American to African American to make blacks still believe that they came from Africa. The white supremacist Vatican government who rules the world instituted racism, right? And then they make sure that black males stay in prison because they know that the natural color of a man is black. If you have too many black males running around, they're going to mess up the whole place. So you create a prison system to put them in jail so they don't make the population black by birthing black children with white women, right? And you also do that so you keep the population of blacks down so they never become a problem and actually rise up to know that they are the indigenous aboriginal people of the United States of America and the Americas as a whole. Then you keep on turning out slave movies to give them the idea, even if the slave movie is a very nice movie, but just to give them the idea that they came from Africa. So you make movies like Amistad or 7 Years a Slave or all the great movies like, there's so many of them I can't even name, but you guys know what I'm talking about. So we look at Michael Jackson now. Black male. Look at that. His nose is still black, lips is still black, face and hair is still black. And Michael Jackson goes from this to this. So would we now say that Michael Jackson is a white man? Can you guys see the myth of whiteness? Now, how did Michael Jackson lose his whiteness? Well, according to Michael Jackson, he said he lost his whiteness to vitiligo, or vitiligo. I don't know how to pronounce that right. So it's a disease, right, which makes you lose melanin. All right? It's not hurting disease. It's a disease that doesn't hurt. You just lose the melanin. So is Michael Jackson now white because he was black? Can you see the myth now of whiteness? That there is no such thing as whiteness? Don't stop. I haven't ended the story. The story is just about beginning. All right? The Michael Jackson from black to this. So would you say he's white? No, you wouldn't say so. It's a myth created to make sure that the Vatican stays in power because they won a race war and took over Europe and took over the power structure of the world, which is run by the devil. So they've inherited the demons and the devilic and demonic angelic beings that Satan has always been using to run this world. And now it's now working in their favor. So they create all these stories. Let's keep going. So is Michael Jackson now a white man? Question. Can anybody answer that? Can anybody please answer? Is Michael Jackson now white? All right. The story is just beginning. Some more stuff to show you. Now, the next video I'm going to play is it's by Martin Luther. You know, it's so sad that today Martin Luther, who I believe should have been, he's the very best of, I could say the very best of the very best of a black person who ever existed in the civil rights movement, because he actually told the truth. But today Martin Luther, has been turned into something else by the Vatican, because they don't want you to believe that what this man stood for was actually right. And they've also bought off the family. The family is paid for and taken care of, so they can never speak anything or anything out of the ordinary. That's why, the Bible always says that a king shouldn't accept gifts. Because when a king does accept a gift, he's ruined his conscience. He can't say what he's supposed to say because he's accepted a gift. All right? So, Martin Luther, today they try to make him look like, he was cheating on his wife, according to the last movie that they watched with that, which was supervised by Oprah and whatever. What's the name of that movie? How can I find out the name of the movie? Hold on a second. Well, the name of the movie now, I do remember, it's called Selma, right? Selma, acted by all these Freemasonic liars as David Oyelowo, Carmen Jogo, Tim Roth, and directed by another Freemason in Ava DuVernay, supervised by Oprah Winfrey or so. These are all lying deceivers. They are shields for the Vatican. It's so sad, but these people are selling out their own people for the Vatican, for some chips and for some coins. It's degrading. It's horrible. So I was talking about Martin Luther. They're trying to degrade him, make him look like, he had an affair, he wasn't not an outstanding citizen and all that. That's the man's private life. If he ever did that, that's between his and his wife. Who are you to make it public? So that's how the Vatican always tries to make private matters be public matters when they ought not to be. What you do in your house is your business. Nobody should give a damn. Whatever you want to do, that is your business. Until you make it public, then it becomes a public matter. That's the way it ought to be. So now I'm going to play this video of Martin Luther, because when they're making videos about Martin Luther, there is the one line that they miss out in the whole entire movie. Martin Luther is going to say that the Negro is still a slave in his own land. A lot of people must have probably heard this and didn't quite understand. Why did Martin Luther say such a thing? Because he knew that blacks were the aboriginal, indigenous, native to the Americas. They did not come from Africa. They had a few black people come over from Africa, maybe less than 1,000 in the whole entire slave trade era. But that was that. The whole black population here, right, was indigenous black people from Africa, just like I've shown you in the beginning of the movie by Benjamin Franklin. So I'm going to play that part so you guys can actually have this in your memory now, so you can understand what was going on here. So I'm going to play, I'm going to pause my voice so you can actually hear what Martin Luther is saying.
Night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, The life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land.
So you heard that? Martin Luther said the Negro is an exile in his own land. Is the one thing, is the one line that you'll never hear your great black leaders on Oprah Winfrey say. They'll never whisper it. Whether it be Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, or all like Dr. Umar Johnson, who just said that blacks know they are not Americans, but that they are Africans, but they will still fight for America like it's their own land. Can you see the programming of the Vatican here? This was the only man who told the truth in black America, that blacks are the natives. Blacks are in exile in their own land. Does it make sense now? So the story now officially begins. So we're going to ask the question, what is it that makes someone white? We're going to start the history lesson. I'm going to show you with scientific fact. All right? Why that happens. So let's start. So I'm going to read where the term white comes from. All right? And I'm going to read this from a wiki page on albinism. All right? Around I start reading, you can actually pause the video and go look up albinism on Wikipedia. Right? It says albinism. Oh, hold on a second. Albinism is considered to be a hereditary condition characterized by the absence of melanin, in particular in the eyes, skin, hair, scales, feathers, or cuticle. While an organism with complete absence of melanin is called an albino. All right? An organism with only a diminished amount of melanin is described as leucistic or albinoid. The term is from the Latin albus, white. So what I'm trying to make you to note right here is that the term white actually comes from the word Latin albus, which actually means albino. So if you say you're white, right, it means that you like color, you like melanin, which is a fact. That means you're an albino. That means you're a black person who lost the ability to produce melanin. So let's read on and see what happens here, right? It says, albinism results from inheritance of recessive gene alleles. So being white is a recessive gene of a black person. We'll get into that a little bit more, right? And is known to affect all vertebrates, including humans. Now, the Vatican doesn't want white people to know that there are albinos because it would sound alarming. So they use the term white, which is actually the same thing. All right? It's actually the same thing. So let's continue on with the story. So, when the white Vatican wants to hide something, they don't want people to know because they've been hiding the truth for a very long time. The first thing they do is that they make the word so big and ambiguous. All right? So for example, the word we're looking at now right now is called oculocutaneous albinism. It took me almost 5 minutes to pronounce that word. Why is it such a huge word? Because the Vatican doesn't want white people to know that there are albinos, and this is the reasons for it. Because Like I said, the Vatican controls everything, including the medical associations. So when, real science is being done, that's going to affect everybody. And they know that they can control it. What they tell the people who make up all these science things is make the word very big, make it ambiguous, so people can find it and they can read and understand. So that's the first trick. If they can make the word very big, what next do? They make it so lengthy. They put so many acronyms so that you don't understand what's really going on. Now, I'm looking at a web page now called oculocutaneous albinism. All right, that's what I'm looking at right now. And it says here, you can always pause the video and go read it. And it says oculocutaneous albinism is OCA. That's what they call it, OCA. Is a form of albinism involving the eyes, the skin, cutaneous, and according to some definitions, the hair. All right. So that means when you don't have color, all right, when albinism affects your eyes, you're going to have eyes that are different from the black or brown eyes, which is natural to man. So that's what's responsible for blue, gray, green, almond eyes. You have albino in your eyes. You're carrying the trait. Does it make sense? So now, if you have albinism in your skin, because there is primary, that's albinism that you're born with. It's recessive, all right? It's a recessive gene that you're born with. That child is going to be white, all right? But if you have secondary, that means later on in life, you have albinism, like Michael Jackson does, all right? In the form of vitiligo, or vitiligo. I don't know how to say it, all right? It turns your skin white. So you have the albinism has affected your skin, making it white. All right. Now, if you have albinism in your hair, what it does, it changes the nappy hair that you have to straight hair. So depending on the kind of eumelanin or phenylalanine that you have, which is responsible for hair color, the hair might still have color, but it will be straight because the albino gene is in there. I didn't say this. I'm just reading from what the Vatican tells you, which I'm going to prove to you in a second or so. All right? So that's the reason for people turning white. There are black people, just like I showed you, who have a form of albinism in one area or the other in their body, just like they said here. All right? So let's keep on reading. It says oculocutaneous albinism is a form of albinism involving the eyes, the skin, and according to some definitions, the hair. Overall, now this is where the lie starts. The Vatican always trying to lie. But I'm using your own document and you're going to see sooner or later. It says, overall, an estimated 1 in 20,000 people worldwide are born with oculocutaneous albinism. So they're trying to make you think like it's not so common. So it's just something that affects black people. If you're white, then that means that's just the way you are. No, you're an albino. You're a black person gone white, just like Michael Jackson. All right, let's keep going. OCA is caused by mutations in several genes that control the synthesis of melanin within the melanocytes. Can you see that? All right. So oculocutaneous albinism, which affects the eyes, the skin, and the hair, right, is caused by several genes that control the synthesis of melanin within the melanocytes. Let's keep reading. It says 4 types of oculocutaneous albinism have been described, all caused by a disruption of melanin synthesis and all autosomal recessive disorders. So let's reading and see where a white person who's suffering from a lack of melanin, where we can fit him into. All right? Okay. Or let's say, well, to put it right, that's right. I'm being politically correct here. Okay, let's keep going. So here is the types of albinism that affects people, right, and makes them white. Okay? It says OCA1 is caused by an alteration of the tyrosinase gene and can occur in 2 variations. The first is OCA1A and means that the organism cannot develop pigment at all. The hair is usually white, often translucent, and the skin very pale. I'm not going to read further from that. Okay, let me just read some more stuff. It says, vision usually ranges from 20/200 to 20/400. The second, I'll read this one later, all right? So I just want to stop there and give you a type, or show you an example of an OC1A person, all right? Person who has no melanin, all right? And the hair is white. I'm going to show you that in the so-called black person and white person. It just means there are albinos. Both of them are. It's just that one has like noses, like as the misconception that all blacks have noses that way, and the other just one has a pointy nose. All right. So I'm going to show you an example. So here is the first example of an OCA1 person. Now this is OCA1, like described, pale skin, white hair. All right. Now the only difference between, I'm going to show you another OCA1 person. Oh, my picture just crashed, so hold on, I'm going to pull that up again. Okay, so I was able to get the pictures up. So the first difference is like this one has Asian features, right? The albinism has affected the hair and has straightened it out, because remember I told you that depending on the type of eumelanin or phenylalanine you have, is going to give you some hair color, and the albinism can make your hair straight or curly. Now this person is from deep inside Africa, right? As you can see, the nose right here, the albinism is in the hair as well, but the hair still feels a little bit frizzy. Now here is an African American. I think she's a model. They call her African American, but I'm just trying to be politically correct. But you can see in this albinism right here, the hair has been straightened out. All right. So these are the forms of OCA1 that you have here. Now let me show you an example of an OCA2. All right, as I move forward. So in OCA2, the type of albinism, it says here, the second is OCA1B, which has several subtypes itself. Some individuals with OCA1B can tan and also develop pigment in the hair. So that is the most common form of albinism that we have in the so-called white population, which the Vatican has actually told you a lie about. You can develop some tanning and you can have some color in the hair, and I'm going to show you an example right now. So here is an example of OCA1B and the several subtypes. You guys know this guy. This is James Bond, Daniel Craig, right? The albinism is in his eyes. It's turned blue. It's in his skin. It's white. It's in his hair, right? But he can tan, because we see a lot of Daniel Craig on the beach tanning, all right? So is Liv Tyler to my right. It's developed some hair color. The albinism is still in the hair because it's straight, right? The eyes are still blue. The skin is still pale. And we'll come to the fact and show you how some of them get this hair color, because it's actually from an admixture with a black person over time. Those genes have been passed on. So let's get on to the rest of the albinism types so you can understand. Now it says here that one subtype of OCA1B is called OC1B temperature sensitive, where the tyrosinases can only function below a certain temperature, which causes the body hair in cooler body regions to develop pigment. That means get darker. All right. So in this type of albinism, right, the person is gonna be temperature sensitive. That means the only place the person is gonna have color in the skin is maybe below the arm, under the armpit, sorry to say, or in the pubic area. And I'm going to show you an example right here and now. So here is an example of OCA1B type. You can see the person, that the albinism is in the skin, in the hair, in the eyes. As you can see, it's some sort of bluish, but down here it's got some color under the armpit. All right. In temperature, it says, which causes the body in cooler body regions to develop pigment. That means get darker. All right. Let's keep on going. Now it says another variant of OCA1b is called albinism, yellow mutant type. It says it's more common among the Amish people than in other populations. So let me pull over a picture of an Amish person so you can see the type of albinism it's talking about. All right. As you can see right here, here is the Amish, right? Yellow albinism, as you can see, the beard and the skin, all right, yellow. That's another albino right there. It's totally white. Okay, so I'm showing you facts. I'm not just talking stuff, so you can actually see what's going on. It says let me keep reading. It says and results in blonde hair and the eventual development of skin pigmentation during infancy, though at birth is difficult, is distinguished from other types. About 1 in 40,000 people have some OCA1. You know, the Vatican is always going to lie to you, so you don't really know the truth of who you are. Now, it says the most common type of albinism is caused by mutation of the P gene. People with OCA2 generally have more pigment, all right? That's what a lot of people have, all right? Like, I'm going to show you an example. Most white people have more pigment and better vision than those with OCA1, but cannot tan like some with OCA1b. A little pigment can develop in freckles or moles. People with OCA2 usually have fair skin, but not as pale OCA1 and pale blonde to golden, strawberry blonde, or even brown hair, and most commonly blue eyes. Now, here the lie kicks in so that you wouldn't know, all right? I'm just reading so you can know how these people tell lies. Even on Wikipedia page, the disinformation, it says affected people of Africa. It jumps all the way to Africa. Now, people, you have to understand that the reason why a lot of people in Africa don't have a lot of albino populations is this. People in Africa, Africans generally marry back into the population, because the only way to cure to cure an albino person is for the person, not a cure, but to make sure that the next generation that comes up is not an albino, is for you to marry a black person. So black people usually in Africa always marry back into the population. So that's how you see those various forms of albinism in Africa. Like, it just affects the eyes only, although it affects everybody the same way. Eyes, ears, or eyes, skin, maybe just the hair, or straightening the hair or something like that. But with white people, because of racism, which the Vatican has instigated to make sure that they can maintain a population that keeps it in power, racism has made everybody to be separate. So white people tend to stay more amongst themselves. So the albinism keeps going on. Does it make sense? All right. So the white people are already albinos, but they maintain it. Does it make sense? With black people, or black people in Africa generally, they marry back into the population. So the albinism is less. Does it make sense? Into the black population. That's what I mean to say. So it says African descent. I'm not going to read to that because that's disinformation. Let me keep going, and let's see what else I can find here. Well, you guys can read this up. Let me not continue, but because I want to step back now and show you the causes of the albinism. Now, what I did forget to mention on this video before I started, when talking about Benjamin Franklin in 1751, talking about that the whole population was black, I forgot to mention, to show you a picture of the last black princess in Europe in the 1800s. So I'm going to pull up the picture now so you actually see it. So here is the picture of the last black queen or princess that existed in the 1800s. Actually, her name was Princess Pauline von Metternich, photographed by Hermann Krohn in 1854. Can you see that? 1854. So that in 1854, this was the last black princess before the whole of Europe got run over. It says the daguerreotype was the first publicly announced photographic process, and for nearly 20 years it was one of the most commonly used. It was invented by the Frenchman Louis Jacques Mandé Duguara and introduced worldwide in 1839. So as you can see way back there, just like Benjamin Franklin had said, there was still black people in Europe, and this was the last princess. I wonder which princess. I wonder which country she was a princess from. Princess. Let's find out which country she was actually a princess from, so we can get that right. So as you can see right here, right, this woman is a black woman. Can you see the hair? You can tell by the nose, which they say is common to black folk, all right? But when we go down into the official history, because I've just she was a princess from Austria. I was trying to tell you which country she was a princess from. You actually find that it's been whited out. See right now, so this is Princess von Metternich according to Wikipedia. And what do you see right here? It's a white woman when this is actually her over here. You see how the Vatican plays mind games, right? In trying to make people believe that blacks are nothing so that they can remain in power by whitening out a black princess to be white right over here. Can you see that? So she was actually the princess was a famous Austrian socialite, mainly active in Princess Pauline. I just want to read so you can see Clement von Metternich. This is actually her over here. All right. Famous Austrian social, many active in Vienna and Paris, known for her great charm and elegance as well as for social commitment. She was an important promoter of the work of German composer Richard Wagner and the Czech composer Bedřich Smetana. Right? They've messed up the name, but she was actually a princess von Metternich of Russia. So let's keep going back to the story of trying to show you what's the reason for what causes albinism has been documented scientifically. All right, so let's go. So the the gene, and now you can pause this video and go copy that out. It's called what causes melanin in the body. One of the genes, about I think one of the primary genes, is called LC24A5. Remember what I said about the Vatican hiding stuff by making it reading acronyms into it or making it ambiguous? Now tell me, if you go looking for a story or trying to find out what's the reason for people being white, are you gonna go type out LCSLC24A5? No, you're not. So you never know, because this guy studied the Vatican makes real science happen, then just provides the fake science to us. Does it make sense? So let me keep reading. It says sodium, potassium, calcium exchanger 5. That's the meaning of LC24A5. Why didn't they just say so? Okay, let's keep reading. It says also known as a solid carrier family 24-member 5-LC24A5 is a protein that in humans is encoded by the LC24A5 gene that has a major influence on natural skin color variation. All right, now let's keep reading down into this document. It says the SLC2485 genes derive 309 or LA11 THR allele RS14265. These guys know how to hide stuff with making it so difficult, so you just give up reading and you just go home. Has been shown to be a major factor in the light skin tone of Europeans compared to Africans. Can you see that? I didn't say so. They said so. Okay, and is believed to represent as much as 25 to 40% of the average skin tone between Europeans and West Africans. It has been the subject of recent selection in Europe and is fixed in European populations. Did I say so? It is fixed in European populations. Now let's keep reading. So now we're trying to get to the meat of bones of what causes the gene to mutate. All right, now it says now here on this wiki page that the SLC245 gene in humans is located on the long arm of chromosome 15 on position 21.1 from base pair 40,246 to base pair 400 did I say 46? Did I say 46,000? It's actually 46 million. Sorry, 46,221,881. Okay, let's keep reading. These guys just make things complicated so you don't understand. So let's keep reading what the SLC2485 does. It says effect on skin color right here. It says SLC2485 appears to have played a major role in the evolution of light skin in humans of European ancestry. The right thing there should be of human beings, not European ancestry, because we're all black. Okay, let's keep reading. The gene's function is pigmentation was discovered in zebrafish as a result of the positional cloning of the gene responsible for the golden variety of this common pet store. Now, if you read that too fast, you miss the fine details. So we're going to read it slow so you get it. It says, the gene's function in pigmentation, all right, was discovered in zebrafish as a result of the positional cloning of the gene responsible for the golden variety of this common pet store. So how was this discovered? They were cloning fish. When they were cloning fish, they found out that the more they cloned, all right, the color of the fish was losing its pigmentation. Now, we'll get to the final details. Just relax. Let me show you something else. All right. It says now here, you can pause the video and copy out this particular link and go read it. It says oculocutaneous albinism. All right. Now let's just read something. I want to show you something, but I just want to read this. Then I can show you what I wanted to show you. It says more than 20 mutations in the SLC45A2 gene are responsible for oculocutaneous albinism type 4. The most common SLC45A2 mutation in the Japanese population switches a single protein building block amino acid in the SLC45A2 protein. Specifically, this mutation replaces the amino acid aspartic acid with the amino acid asparagine at protein position 157. I don't want to read through that. And then other mutations, including changes in single amino acids and deletions or insertions of genetic material in the SLC45A2 gene, have also been reported in several populations worldwide. Mutations in these genes reduce or eliminate the function of SLC45A2 protein in melanin production. So this is the protein that affects melanin. Because this protein is important for normal pigmentation, its loss leads to changes in skin, hair, and eye coloration, and problems with vision that are characteristics of oculocutaneous albinism type 4. Now, I have shown you here, right, that how they discovered that this was the protein responsible for pigmentation and causing people to either have it or not have it was because they were cloning, all right? Cloning of the gene, cloning fish. Let me read something else that you can that's going to be much more interesting, all right? Now, here's what I wanted to read to you. You can pause the video and copy out the link right there and go read it. It says, the genome sequencing of an albino western lowland gorilla reveals inbreeding in the wild. So what's the story about? All right, abstract. Now, it says, the only albino gorilla named Snowflake, right, was a male wild-born individual from Equatorial Guinea who lived at the Barcelona Zoo for almost 40 years. He was diagnosed with non-syndromic oculocutaneous albinism. That is white hair, light eyes, pink skin, photophobia, and reduced visual acuity. Despite previous efforts, all right, to explain the genetic cause, this is still unknown. That's a lie, because they're going to show you later in this document that they know, all right? Here we study the genetic cause of his albinism, and making use of whole genome sequencing data, we find a higher inbreeding coefficient compared to other gorillas. What does it mean, inbreeding? Inbreeding means keeping in the family. If you guys know what I mean. Keeping it in the family. You've probably heard of that term, all right? Meaning people are reproducing themselves within the family. That's the actual meaning of cloning, not marrying outside of the family. So let's go on further so I can show you that these guys actually know what causes albinism and somebody to carry that recessive gene, okay? So what I wanted to show you guys was that this document, which was trying to find out the reason why people lose skin color, did an experiment on a gorilla, all right? And the only thing they noticed, besides the fact that you can actually pause the video and get this link and just go copy and read it, and you can read it, that the only thing that they noticed, despite the fact that they gave it the food, they gave all the gorillas food, and this particular gorilla and everything else that was living, which they had this experiment on, was because the gorilla was formed by inbreeding between itself. That means inbreeding between its uncles, aunts, and family. That means the nuclear family, and not breeding outside. So this is what I want to read to you so you guys know how this happens. It says this is the still on okay, here we study the genetic cause of his albinism. All right, they're studying it and making use of all whole genome sequencing data. We find a higher inbreeding coefficient compared to other gorillas. That was the only thing they noticed. So what happens now is the reason why people carry albinism around in their genes, and then white people have more of it because they're actually coming from blacks, is because way back in history, all right, that means black people were living inbreeding amongst themselves, keeping it in the family. That is the reason for the recessive genes of making people white. That's what actually makes people white. So that goes on to show that the Bible is very, very real, because the very first case of keeping it in the family ever recorded was between Lot and his daughters. And then after that, God gave a strict warning that nobody should keep it in the family. I'm actually going to read that portion to you so you can actually see, because the Vatican knows that if you go studying and looking for the reasons why that you have no color, if you're white, or you're black and you lost color, which is the case for white folk, all right, you will find out at the end of the day that the cloning process, this is actually cloning, that means keeping it in the family, is the reason for it. So I lead you to the Bible. I want to show you that from the Bible, okay? So King James Version, you guys can read from Leviticus chapter 18 of the King James Version of the Geneva Bible, and you can read from verse 6. It says, none of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him to uncover their nakedness. I am the Lord. The nakedness of thy father or thy nakedness of thy mother shalt thou not uncover. She is thy mother, thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. The nakedness of thy father's wife shalt thou not uncover. Is thy father's nakedness, the nakedness of thy sister, the daughter of thy father or daughter of thy mother, which she be born at home or born abroad, even thy nakedness, thou shalt not uncover. So, this is why, the reason why I say that history is very, very important. Because if there's one thing that you should study, which is the most important thing besides you trying to make a living for yourself, it's history. Because history tells you who you are. History tells you why you are here right now. History tells you what you have. Without that, you'll never know who you are. That's why the Vatican is so much interested in history, because once they've hijacked history, you don't know who you are, and history will always trace you back to God Almighty. Can you see that? So, the reason I've shown you what causes albinism, which is dominant in white populations, because like I said before, black people carry the recessive genes, and white people are black people who have lost the ability to produce melanin. It's just that white people haven't married back into the black dominant population, which the Vatican prevents by racism and so many other things. And then black people naturally in Africa or wherever the case might be marry back their albinos, marry back into the population, gaining back the skin color, which I'm going to show you that. So the Vatican has told so many lies. But one thing else I want to show you, so because I always tell you that I've talked about the fact that the race war started in Asia, that being the dominant, like being white, right, started around in Asia. That means most of the people in Asia were inbreeding amongst themselves, and they bred themselves until they became a viable population, and then they started infiltrating from Asia down into Europe, and that's how Europe lost its blackness. So I'm going to show you that I'm going to show you the fact of that what I'm saying is actually true. So hold on a second. So you're gonna you can actually copy out that link right there and read, because this is what I want to actually show you, the association, and that Asians, right, and Europeans, even today you can see there is a lot of infiltration of Asians into America, because the white Vatican knows who they are company or where they came from, because actually white people are descendants of Asians. That's just the truth. The reason why they look different is because as they moved along and intermingled with so many other black people around the world, as they won that race was as they were moving, they picked up color and different attributes, just like I showed you earlier in the video of how Africans look Asian, look like everybody else around the world that's white. Does it make sense? So I'm going to show you that this is what I'm going to read so you can actually understand what I'm saying. It says here, this article says, a patient with subclinical oculocutaneous albinism type 2 diagnosed on getting severely sunburned. So I'm going to read the part I want to read to you, because you can actually read this at your own time. I'm just going to start reading from a particular spot here. It says, we present a Japanese patient having the A4812 mutant allele or allele in the P gene with subclinical oculocutaneous albinism, diagnosed on getting severely sunburned. The A481T mutant allele is relatively common in the Caucasian population as well as in Japan. Can you see that? So Caucasian people are actually Asian descendants. That's why, for example, today when the Vatican is interested in maintaining the whiteness in America, they bring in Asians. Does it make sense? Because they know their history. It's just people out here don't know that. All right, indicating that a number of subclinical patients of ACA2 might exist not only in Japan but also all over the world. Can you see that? You can go read that at your own time. So you can see that. I'm just going to show you that Japanese people and Asians were originally black. Now, if you go looking for a picture of Buddha, now this is one of the things that they like telling you lies. You will see that Buddha has a lot of cornrows on his head, even like this. But if you go to the official histories and they try to read to you what Buddha looks like, they're gonna say that the cornrows are snails. You see how the white Vatican lies to you? So that you don't know your true history, because this is only black dudes, because only nappy hair can keep this kind of texture. Buddha right here, the original statues of Buddha all have that. Look at like example on this one. That is a black dude. And then if you ever notice why ancient statues go missing their lips and noses, is because those ancient statues of like Egyptians or only ancient statues around the world like the Olmecs always have a black lip, the so-called African black lip and noses. So when the white Vatican doesn't want you to know and still maintain the system of whiteness through racism, right, they knock off those noses and those lips. So that's why you always see these statues with missing lips and noses, because they don't want you to know that these people are black as the so-called or African or African in nature, just like I showed you what Benjamin Franklin had said. Does it make sense now? So that's how to show you that the original Asians were all black. Black with nappy hair, cornrows, as you can see here. This is all black hair. All right, black hair. So when albinism, gets into the hair, it can straighten the hair just like I showed you. Let me actually pull up the picture again so you guys can actually see what I was saying. So here is the picture. I hope it doesn't crash. You can see right here, right? This is a black child with long blonde hair because the albinism has affected his hair. So that goes to show you, without a benefit of a doubt, if you choose to live in a delusion, that's really up to you. Because I've shown you from Benjamin Franklin's letter, a founding father of the United States of America, showing you that the whole of Europe was black and that Asians were black. All right? Does it make sense? So when the albinism is in the hair, it straightens out the hair. That's the reason for straight hair. All right? Or it makes the hair blonde, just as in the case as you see with this kid. Let me pull that up well so you see pretty well. All right, that's a black kid with long straight hair, blonde. All right, deep in the jungles of Africa. Does it make sense? All right, so I've come to the end of today's subject, in which I want to put this benefit of this whole myth of whiteness to bed, just to make you understand that we're all black. So if you're white and you go looking down on black people, you have to understand that you're deluded as hell, because you don't know you're damn black yourself. It's ridiculous, right? So black people, if a white person calls you the N-word, all you have to tell them is that you're black as well. You just don't have the blackness. That's all. All right? So this whole myth of racism is it's superimposed by the White Vatican to maintain its power, and it's going to lead down a very slippery slope, because it's the devil at work working through the Vatican to maintain this system, because they're setting themselves up, to build the third temple, and this is how the end times are actually going to work, because everybody thinks that God Almighty, or the so-called Jesus, whose name is not really Jesus, is actually white. So they would have gone through this whole, building process of calling him Jesus and in white, and then they're going to deceive the whole world when the Pope, whosoever the Pope will be, who will call himself Jesus, who's going to be white, is going to sit in the third temple that's going to be built in Jerusalem under the guise of the Jerusalem Jews rather are very religious and want to build a third temple back up for their history, when they are really fake Jews and not the real Hebrews. And that dude sits in the temple. He's going to call himself Jesus, and he's going to be white, and people are going to be deceived. So you see how this whole thing actually works there now, that you really have to know your history and don't deny who you really are, that you are all black and God created you black people. Does it make sense? So people shouldn't either, if you're black either, you shouldn't go, addressing white people in any terms of when thinking, okay, there are albinos from us or anything else. We all carry the recessive trait of albinism, because according to Mendel's laws, we have two pairs of each gene. One can be recessive and one can be dominant. So way back in history, all right, when people were living, inbreeding amongst themselves, which is the reason for it, okay, because that's the only thing that the scientists can tell, is that inbreeding is the reason for the loss of that melanin color, or the loss of that gene pool, which God specifically has warned us about, which have shown. Then you stand to understand other things now, all right. So there is really no need. So you can understand the moving and machinations of the Vatican for keeping racism alive, and very well, is to keep themselves, the white people, or white people like Benjamin Franklin has said, to be in power, to increase themselves, like he said, increase their whiteness. Does it make sense? So don't get stuck up in it, all right? We're all black. We just turn white because of what our great forefathers or great grandfathers did. All right. So right now we just have to live with it. There's no need for all this black white mess. We're all black. All right. So with that, I think I've come to the end of today's subject. So we now have to switch gears to the feature of today, which has to be Michelle Obama. All right. Now, before I switch gears to Michelle Obama, I just want to show you how this thing, the subject of how people maintain or turn white actually goes. So I'm going to show you some pictures and some slides, okay? So bear with me for a second, all right? So the first example now, I'm featuring Michelle Obama, sorry, not Michelle, Sasha Obama here because her supposed mother, if she actually is on the show. So Sasha is in here. So I want to give you a typical example of how these things actually work. So here is a black person, right? So a black person with a, I'm giving you real history now. A black person inbreeding in the wild, not just in the wild, inbreeding amongst itself. That means keeping it in the family, okay? Gives birth to either this person over here or this person over here. That means a child comes out this way, being an albino, all right? Where we get white people from. So now what happens is, if this person, right, marries either this, or this, which is the same thing, all right, this just one has a little bit of, color in his hair. So if this black person marries this woman here, or this one, he produces this kid, all right? So this kid is second generation from this, okay? Now, if this kid wants to maintain its blackness, he has to marry someone like Michelle Obama. Sorry, not Michelle. Sasha Obama right here. All right? So he has to marry Sasha Obama to maintain the third generation still being black. But if this kid now goes back and marries someone like this that looks like a mom, the production is Liv Tyler over here. They have some color in the hair and some melanin that can help it tan. Does it make sense? All right, let me show you another example, okay? Let me pull up another example here. Now, this particular example has to do with Harry Belafonte. Now, he was a singer, Caribbean singer, very popular way back in the day. Now, these Harry Belafonte, you can see, you can see right now, he's a black man with nappy hair. All right? Black man. He's gotten older here. But Harry Belafonte married a white lady in Julie Robinson. And what did he produce? He produced a black kid. Now, if this kid wanted to remain black, all right? Okay, I'm just showing you how this changes. He's supposed to marry maybe someone like Sasha Obama over here, right? But he didn't do that. He married another white lady down here. And so you can see the production of this kid now. He has some color in the hair and has some melanin, and the blue eyes from the mother is gone. But by the third generation here, the blackness of this man, right, starting over here, is lost and is now white. So can you see how the world changed right from the Benjamin Franklin time, changed white from the Benjamin Franklin time, from being black to white? Because this is what the Vatican did when they took over. They had to increase themselves to stay in power. That's what I forgot to show you guys as examples. And so we can finally switch gears now to Michelle Obama. All right. So as usual, before I get into Michelle Obama, I always like playing a clip to show you where a woman's hip is usually at, standard anywhere in the world. So I play this clip and it's loading right here. You can see this clip. This is a woman. Her hips are spreading downwards and the widest point is below the crotch. So standard anywhere in the world is how a woman fits into clothes. The tape goes round. Can you see that? And the widest point, because without this point being below the crotch, this woman can give birth. She's gonna have problems because she can't spread her legs to push out the baby. So if it was above it, it was gonna be a problem. So that's the widest point in a woman's body, is always below the crotch. I'm not saying a woman can be wider at the top, but the hips are always going to be below the crotch, okay? So I play and the tape goes around. As you can see, she turns around, and where do we find where the crotch is at, the hip is at? Just slightly above the bum line right here, but below the crotch, okay? All right, so I go to a document now, right? And this is a document I advise that everybody should have, and as usual I show you that a female has an arch in her back because she's gonna get pregnant. Extra support for the weight of carrying children so she can walk and not have any problems, and a tilted pelvis forward. All right, a man always has a straight back. If a man's back wants to arch, it's gonna arch outside in the shape of a P or a D. All right, if he tries to arch his back any type of way, it's gonna show some weird angles. All right, it doesn't matter what the woman looks like. A woman's back is always gonna arch more than that of a man. If she bends her back outwards, it's gonna bend so much more that it looks like it's a humpback. If she bends it inwards, it's gonna bend so much more that you see that C curve in here. All right, it doesn't matter if the woman is big or small or tiny, there's always gonna be an arch in that female's back. Here is a female to my right, small. Here, female to my left, big. Arch in the back. Doesn't matter if the female's got muscles like this muscular female. Arch in the back. Arch in the back. A woman will never have a straight back. Otherwise, how is she gonna carry the weight of children? Her pelvis is tilted forward, so that can't even make the back straight. Does it make sense? So now let's hit up and see what we got on Michelle Obama. So before I get into Michelle Obama, because I'm using the supposed daughter of Michelle Obama in Sasha Obama to actually debunk who Michelle Obama actually is. Now, as you look, this is a black woman, right? And she has an arch in her back. You can see how wide the hips of this female are, because usually black women will always be more curvier than any other ethnicity. And why is the reason? So if you've watched the video from the whole start up to this point, the reason why is because of the melanin. Melanin is in everything. It attributes to everything in life, in a human being. It's responsible for almost everything in your whole body. So the more you have of it, the better off you are. That's why when you see darker black people, they have great skin because they have enough dense molecules of melanin over inside their body and outside on top of it, so they can take benefit of all the nutrients of the sun and all the nutrients that they can eat. So naturally, a black woman is always going to be curvier than her counterpart. As you can see right here, that Michelle Obama is more curvier than the females that she's working out, which are white. But like I've proven before, I'm trying to be politically correct here, there are black people who have lost the ability to produce melanin, just recessive genes. All right, they're working with the recessive genes caused by, you know, inbreeding the wild of what black generations did in the past, and that's being passed on now. But as you can see, that she's much more curvier and her hips are below her crotch. Even with these females right here, you can see their hips are below her crotch. There's a reason why I put her up. So we'll come back to her in a little while, because we're going to use her to debunk Michelle Obama. All right, so let's go. Now, the first picture of Michelle Obama I want to show you is this. Now, as you can see, who has the widest hips among these two women? You can see that it's Michelle Obama, right? We're just going to say that for now. Now, but what you notice, I want you guys to notice something about these hips. The wider the hips right here, the more acute the Q angle for a woman ought to be. Now, this woman doesn't have very wide hips, but you can see how acute the Q angle is. And what is the Q angle? The Q angle is the angle from the hip to the knee. As you can see with this white woman over here, it's very acute. For Michelle Obama, it's very straight like a man, because these hips are fake. Now, the reason why I did that was because to show you with Sasha Obama over here. Can you see the difference? Now, if this thing gave birth to this woman over here, how come she has a very acute Q angle, being that she's very, very curvy, and the mom over here does not? Does it make sense? Can you compare it? Can you compare the two Q angles and see right there that this one has little or no, even with the curvy figure that she's supposed to have? Why is that so? Because this is a dude and this is a woman. We'll come back again. You can see the difference in the Q angle right there, right? The bigger hips, but a less cute angle. The smaller hips and less cute angle, because this is a dude. Let's keep going. And here is Michelle Obama again. Same thing again. Where is the Q angle here? It's not. The Q angle is the same with the black dude behind him. Or behind her. Can you see that? Even though this picture is blurry because they're trying to hide stuff, but I just still pulled it up. You can still see the Q angle for this hip is not acute enough. And look at the female over here. See how acute that Q angle is? Because this is a dude. Michelle Obama is a dude. And that's a woman. Some more pictures. Well, I just pulled it up just to show you how ridiculous these shoulders look. I don't even need to talk about it because I just want to use the definitive facts to show you that Michelle Obama. That's why I'm saying that Obama is the worst of the worst black. He's really disappointed people all over the world. Because he was the one person that the Vatican let in, and being black, he should have shown the history. He should have told the truth of what the truth is really about and free people's minds. But he jumped in and he lied to us. Let's keep going. I'm not going to even help because some people ask the question, is Obama a dude or is a female? He's a dude, but I'm not going to do him any favors because he's the greatest deceiver, one of the greatest deceivers that's ever been into the president's office. All right, now here is Michelle Obama, and what I want you guys to notice is, where is this supposed female turning from? Because remember, a woman's waist is above the navel, so when she turns, she's gonna turn higher up from where her bra line or shoulder blades are. That's roughly around where a female's waist is at. So as you can see from this cloth that she's wearing, where is that turn coming from? You can see the angle and the flaring of the clothes. Where is it turning from? The turn is coming from here, because that is where Michelle Obama's waist is at. It's not up here like it should be if for a female, because this is a dude. And what you guys notice about the back, as usual, like I said, it's a straight back. We're going to show you some more pictures, so sit tight, okay? And Michelle Obama, what I wanted you to notice was about the way this thing crosses her legs. Now remember, a female crosses her legs at her thighs. The angle at which she crosses her legs are going to be further inside into the thigh because she has a wider pelvic arch. Remember that. Without the wider pelvic arch, a female can give birth. Males have narrow pubic arches, so they can't cross the legs as much as a woman would. So they cross the legs more towards the calves, right, than the thigh. With this thing, the way it's crossing his legs, this is a man's legs cross. This ain't no female. Some more pictures. I just wanted to show you the ridiculous traps on this supposed female. Because I tell you, brothers, I've been trying to work my traps for the longest. I work out a lot. I've worked my traps for so long. But they're not as humongous as this female. How come? Does she have more traps than me? I'm a dude, right? Okay, just showing you that. I don't want to talk about it. And here you can see that an arm length. Look at how big those arms are. Now, why am I using all the subjective facts? Because I've used the definitive facts to show you that this is a dude, all right? So I'm just using the subjective now to support it. Does it make sense? Look at those arms, how long it is. Those are the arms of a dude. Now, this picture is blurry because it's hiding stuff, all right? When stuff is going to show too much that you're actually looking at a dude, what do? They make it blurry. And that's the lying deceiver Obama right there. Next picture. What do you guys notice here? Even through clothes, you're going to see the arch in a woman's back. This is still a straight, the straightest back that I've ever seen on a dude. Because this is a dude. Straight back, no arch. Alright? Some more pictures. Who is he winking at? Definitely not me. Because this is a dude. Goodness gracious. Look at that again. A straight back. There's no arch in that back. It's straight. It's put on some fake. They've given it hips, and they've given it some, butt injections or whatever the case might be. But it ain't fooling me. Just straight back. Michelle Obama is a dude. Some more pictures. Look at that again. What do you see down there? Straight back. Straight back. There's no arch in that back because this is a dude. This is the same back that Angela Bassett has because they are both dudes. Alright? Don't worry about the fake smile and trying to pretend. I'm going to show you some other ridiculous stuff so you can actually know that these people can actually fake being female so ridiculously good. Now, one thing I want you guys to notice while watching this video is that in the near future, stuff is going to happen. You're going to have real females coming out and telling you that they're transgender because the Vatican is going to try to confuse you. Don't fall for it. You have to look at the skeletal structure and see if that female who says they are transgender is actually real. Case in point, we have somebody like, I'm trying to recall the name right now. What is the name? She's on a movie. She was in, I think, Orange. Orange is the New Black show. Ruby Rose. Ruby Rose is one example. She wants to appear to be transgender, but she's actually female. All right, don't fall for it. Let's go some more pictures. And look at that. Look at the heavy butt, all right, on this thing. But the back is still straight. There is no arch in that back. You know, the Vatican has studied the female or the male anatomy. The one thing that always distracts a man is a woman's hips. A man, when you see a woman with hips, you just have to give it some sort of attention. So in trying to make these transgenders look like males, right? Or sorry, these males look like females. They give it so much butt implant because the one thing when your man looks and say, "Oh damn, those are some nice looking butt," right? It distracts you. Your brain short circuits because that's the way God designed it. It's designed to keep the species, all right? To keep the species alive. That a man should always mate with a woman. So the wide hips is meant to attract a dude. Just like a woman would look at a man and see with a man with broad shoulders and say, "Oh, that's a hunk." It's the same way. It's for the continuation of the species. That's what it's for. But the Vatican has worked it so good on its transgenders, making them have hips so you can get distracted and think that it's a female when it's actually a dude. But look at that. Straight back. Straight into the pelvis. No arch in that back. You're looking at a dude. Alright? Some more pictures. Look at that again. Straight, straight, straight back. There's no arch in that back. It's straight into the pelvis with its fake, fake, fake butt. Alright? And look at the head. Now remember the comparisons I told you about. If you're trying to compare the head and skulls of people, you should make sure that they're of the same ethnicity, because black people have larger skulls than other people because their skulls are heavy because because of the melanin content they have. They can gain more water and more density in their bones. But when you're comparing, you should also take into account the height of the person and the weight. And since they're almost of the same height and weight, we can compare them. And what do you see? Even him, Michelle Obama, seems like he wants to have a bigger head than Barack Obama over here, because these are two dudes. All right, some more pictures. Look at that. Straight back, walking the dog. Straight back. There's no arch in that back. How come you don't have an arch in your back, Michelle, if you're female? Oh my goodness. More pictures. Look at that again, folks. Straight, straight, straight back. No arch in that back. Straight, straight, straight into the pelvis. No arch. Look at the head now. Comparisons. They have the same skull. If she was female, Obama's head would be 10% more bigger than his. But it's not, because this is a dude. Some more pictures. Look at that again. Straight, 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 straight back. No arch in that back. Straight into the pelvis. You're looking at a dude. A dude with fake breasts from taking estrogen or whatever the case might be. And this fake dude laughing. Sold out his people. Sold out his country for a few coins. It's so sad. It's the saddest story. Even saying this, I feel it in my heart, but it is what it is. Let's keep going. Now, I put up this picture. This is not a picture of Michelle Obama in any case. I put up this picture because I wanted to show you how good these people get. Now here's this thing is called Janet Mock. It's an openly transgender. He doesn't lie about it. He says I'm transgender. I'm transgendered from a female. But as you can see, transgender to the female, sorry I can say, but you can see the back is still straight. But look at that butt. If a man was just looking at that butt, he would say, dang, that's a female. Look at that. It's a straight back. Janet Mock, don't lie. Janet Mock again. He hasn't lied, so I'm just showing you an example, right? Straight back, because we're working with Michelle Obama to show you how good these people can get. Straight back, straight into the pelvis, because it's a dude. Janet Mock. I'm just showing you. See that again? Straight into the pelvis, and that's what Michelle Obama has. So let's continue on. Michelle Obama again, straight back. And look at Michelle Obama's daughter right here. I remember what the name of the elder daughter is. And she has an arch in her back. Can you see that? Arch in the back. Arch in the back. But the mama over here has a straight back. So there is no way this thing could have given birth to this, because this is a dude. Some more pictures. What do you notice? The shoulders. The traps. All right. I just wanted to put that up there. That's all. And look at Michelle again, right here. Straight back. Can you see that? And look at the female that she's walking with. Can you see that? She has an arch in her back. A C-shaped arch in her back. And look at Michelle down here. Straight back. Straight. Because these are two dudes and this is a woman. All right. Some more pictures. Now, this particular picture, I have to pull up some more pictures because I want you to notice that the way this thing sits, even someone, if you just saw this without this breast down here, you would know that you're looking at a dude. Look at that. It's sitting like a dude riding a bike. Let me pull up the pictures that I want to show you, okay? Now, the reason why I had to pull up these pictures this way, because for those haters who always say, oh, you're comparing a black woman with a white woman. No. Today, I've told you, I've put this black and white thing aside to bed for good. This is all about truth. But just for them doing this, here's Michelle Obama on a bike, right? No arch in that back. And look at this black woman over here. Can you see that? Arch in the back. Arch in the back. Because this is a female and this is a dude. Now some more pictures. Look at that. Here is Kim K riding a bike, right? Arch in the back. So you can understand that it doesn't matter what ethnicity or what color you are. A female skeletal structure never changes just because you're of some different ethnicity. She has an arch in the back riding a bike. Why does this thing have a straight back over here? Because this is a dude. And Kim K is female. Another female. She's one is black. As you can see. What does she have? Arch in the back. Arch in the back. Arch in the back right here. Arch in the back. But what does this black female over here have? Straight back. Because Michelle is a dude. Some other pictures. Look at that. This is a woman of Asian descent. And you can still see there's an arch in the back. Arch in the back right there. Arch, arch, arch in the back. But look at Michelle right here. Still a straight back. So that's the end of the video. I've come to it finally. It was a long video. I hope you learned something. And you should know, if you're new, a new sub, I mean, if you're a hater, please don't watch the video, alright? This channel is not for everybody. It's for those who seek truth, those who've sought truth all their lives, that we're trying to help. Just like I found the truth, I want you guys also to know the truth. But if you've stayed for such a long time and watched this long-ass video, please don't sit up and make a ridiculous comment. Just stop the video right before you get to this point and just quit. And say it's a stupid video. I'm not listening to that stupid dude, alright? Let us be stupid by ourselves. But if you've learned something, you're welcome to subscribe. And as usual, I leave you with these words. Sorry for the long video though, but look with your eyes and see with your brain. Thanks and bye-bye.